Back to that KEVIN Show with Kevin McCullough.
As we were going to the break, you probably didn't catch it, but there was a little baby's cry in the background, and wherever Kaylee McEnany is joining us from, and she and that's one of her babies, and she's welcome to be on the show along with her lovely mama. Serenity in the Storm: Living Through the Chaos. This is the new book by Kaylee McEnany. And what's the new book about? Why did you feel compelled to write it at this time, and what is it that you want people to get from it?
You know, we have politics and we have our faith, and those are two things that I've loved my whole life. One far more than the other, my faith, because it animates every other part of my life. But when you look at the political landscape, I've loved politics since I was an 8-year-old girl. I mean, I was interested in the Bob Dole election. I mean, like going way back. So, you know,
and that does demonstrate commitment there. If you were a Bob Dole girl at that age, you
yes.
had a lot of interest.
I had a lot of interest. Yes. But I realized going through life that sometimes the church remains separate from the body politics. And of course, there shouldn't be a state religion. I'm not suggesting that. But we as churches shouldn't sit on the sidelines, because the issues animating our cultural conversation are issues like life, which Scripture has a lot to say on. The Bible is emphatically pro-life. You can't walk away without getting that message. Or education, where you see God being chased out of school. And I think a lot of the violence we see is an offshoot of children who are not moored in something bigger than themselves, you know, selfie culture, not looking to the creator of self. So this book was an effort to highlight these issues and highlight the importance of faith and people of faith having a voice in the political landscape.
Some of the things you take on are more of the cultural based items, and certainly with the roll of the dice that the progressive agenda has put into our schools with this transitioning of children from their biological sex to imagined genders and other aspects of some of that type of thing have really threatened mothers in ways that we have not seen in recent years. And I'm curious if your hunch is that the left may be overplaying its hand when it comes to taking the mother's vote for granted here.
There's no doubt about it. So when I wrote Serenity in the Storm, it was before a lot of what we're seeing recently, this coalition of people of faith, of different faiths, Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Muslim. You're seeing protesting across the country saying, you know, in the case of Maryland, I believe it was, the Muslim population saying with Christians, so both groups protesting together, saying, you're not even allowing me to opt my child out of a curriculum where you're trying to teach sex to my elementary school child, and you won't allow me to opt out. So this total degradation of the parent and separation of the parent from the child, from, you know, not telling a parent that your child's going by a different pronoun or a different name, and locking the parent out of that kind of, you know, discussion with their child. It's absolutely insidious what we're seeing. And we saw what happened in Virginia, a tremendous victory with Glenn Youngkin. And I think not to be underestimated is this issue of education as we head into a general election next year.
Well, even in 22, Kaylee, a lot of people took note that the Republicans didn't take the Senate, and there's a lot of reasons why I think that didn't happen. They did win the House back, but there was a bit of a red wave on the school boards across America. I think there were more than 42 major cities that saw a switching in their educational school boards that went from having transgender pushing allies sitting on the boards to now moms and dads, everyday moms and dads that said, no, we're not going to allow that here. And they got involved and they got elected. I'm anticipating that since the schools really have not changed their tone since 22, that's going to be an even more intense area of discussion this time.
I think so. I mean, this poll, and again, we've talked about polling and how it can be off, but not off by as large of the margins of what I saw when I looked at this Washington Post poll that asked about these issues. It asked about biological men and women's sports. It asked about teaching sex to kindergarten through third grade. And remember, they called that the, quote, "Don't say gay" bill in Florida. That's not what it was. It was about not teaching sex to kids. When they poll these issues, hormone treatment, these are 80-20 issues, with on balance, anywhere from 65 to 80% saying, no biological men and women's sports. Don't teach sex to my kindergartner. And when I saw those numbers, I mean, it's jaw dropping. There's a common sense consensus here. And this is where Republicans, they can talk about these issues in a compassionate way. This isn't about, discriminating. This is not about anti-LGBTQ legislation. This is about protecting the parent-child relationship and you having a voice. If it can be talked about in the right way, I think that we can have an enormous victory, and this can be one of the reasons.
Kayleigh McEnany, so good to talk to you, friend. And her newest book, Serenity in the Storm, Living Through Chaos by Leaning on Christ. Get your copy. Kayleigh, take those babies home. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Great to talk to you.
Kevin McCullough coming right back. Don't go away.
Ready or not, he'll be right back. That Kevin